We are starting a lab called the Ketchup Lab, where we are racing ketchup. Now that sounds crazy, but what we're actually trying to do is we're actually trying to figure out which brand of ketchup is the thickest. So you should have this lab paper. If you don't have that, please let me know, because that's going to be what you turn in for your lab grade. Just a little housekeeping. Make sure that your name is on this piece of paper, and if by any chance you were with us like on a Zoom call or in class and you're just trying to get more trials from this, make sure that you put who your lab partner was. Okay, so it says if Heinz brand is the thickest, well actually yours does not say that. The problem says which brand of ketchup is the thickest. Well, you're looking at 3 different brands. One is Heinz, one is Hunt's, and one is Clover Valley, which is the Dollar General brand. Under hypothesis, and I went ahead and showed you what I picked. I want you to put which one you think is the thickest. It does not have to be Heinz. I just happen to like Heinz, and for some reason I think it, going into this, I think it might be the thickest. Who knows? A hypothesis does not have to be right. Remember, it does have to be testable, and it cannot be an opinion. So, like for this one, I would not want my hypothesis to say, I think that Heinz is the best, because best is an opinion. But it says if Heinz brand is the thickest, then it will go down the ramp the slowest. Okay, so I'm just going to go over some of the supplies that you need for this lab. Of course, you need your 3 brands of ketchup. We're using Heinz, Clover Valley, which is upside down, and Hunt's. You need wax paper to cover your book with. You need a book. And I've already got this set up right now. And this is my cups in the lab. Instead of using just glasses, we would use beakers. And then I'm using syringes. You could use dropper pipettes in the lab. You also need to have some tape, a Sharpie, a ruler, and some form of paper towel. You also need some kind of timer. I'm using my computer here. Most of y'all will use your cell phones. Alright, let's skip on down to where it says procedure right here on your paper. And I know y'all can read. I'm just going to read this. And then I'm going to show you how to go about actually doing this. Number 1 says cover your book with wax paper. We do that so that we don't get ketchup all over our textbooks. Number 2 says on the wax paper, draw a line at the top, leaving room for your starting row of ketchup. Then draw a second line 15 centimeters below it. This is your racetrack for the ketchup. It's important that everybody had a distance between the starting and the finish of 15 centimeters to keep that consistent. And I'm going to show you how to cover your book. Okay, I'm going to show y'all how to prepare your book and prepare your racetrack. So you're going to need wax paper. I would try your best to tear it off. Even though this is the cheap stuff, probably not going to get a nice, neat line. But if you want to come back and cut it, you can. I always tell people in class, pick the partner that is the best at wrapping Christmas presents and have them do this. The most important thing when you're making your track is that this is not wrinkly, because if it's wrinkly, it will cause it to slow down. You don't want it to slow down. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna grab a ruler. We're gonna draw a line That's B. We're going to draw a line at the top, leaving room for our ketchup. And I'm going to measure 15 centimeters down. And it's important that everybody's group has 15 centimeters because we need to make our track the same length. Okay, and then you don't have to write out the whole names, but I would at least abbreviate where you're gonna have your ketchup, because once you pour it on there, it's all gonna look the same. And then you have your track made. Okay, so these are our 3 different types of ketchup that we're gonna test. You can see going from left to right, I have Heinz, and then I have Hunt's, and then I have the Dollar General Special Clover Valley. So I'm just gonna start out by putting them in a cup, because we're gonna have to draw them up, and it's gonna be easier to do that in a cup than it would be out of the bottle. Let's just take a minute to look at them. Maybe look at their consistencies from the get-go. This is Heinz. And then I have Hunt's. And then I have Clover Valley. So since I am filming this at home, I actually forgot to grab some pipettes when I was at school. But we're going to use these. And I may actually start using these instead. These are things that come with like little kid Tylenol and stuff, but they're just a syringe. But we're gonna use them to draw up 5 milliliters of ketchup. So let's see if I can hold this or position this so that you can see what we're doing here. So you can see that I have almost exactly 5 milliliters of my Heinz ketchup, which is probably a better way to measure it than our pipettes are. On the next part of your lab paper, this is where we're going to collect our data. Start out by setting up your data table like this. You'll have to write in Heinz, Hunt's, and Clover Valley. Remember, those are brands, so they're proper names. English note, they should be capitalized. Okay, so after one trial, I've decided that 5 drops is too much. So we're just going to do 3, and I said 5 drops. I meant 5 milliliters. We're going to do 3 milliliters instead. That's going to make our piles a little less big, a little smaller. Okay, so I've got my 3 brands of ketchup ready to go on the starting line. I'm using my laptop as a timer because I'm using my phone to record. And I have put another piece of wax paper under my book just to try to keep from having such a huge mess. So I'm going to set this right here. And I'm going to use one hand to raise my book up and then one hand to start my timer. Ideally, if you're in the lab, you want to have one of one lab partner work the timer and then one kind of watch the ketchup. But I'm gonna try to do this by myself. So I'm trying to get this where y'all can see it. 1, 2, 3. If you didn't catch what that said, and I knew you wouldn't, but I just wanted to prove to you that that's what it actually said. I've rewritten what it said on my computer screen on the sticky note, and I just want to go over with y'all what how I got my data. Okay, so the number 1 time that you see, that's when my first ketchup crossed the finish line. Number 2 was an accident by me. Like I mashed the split button when I shouldn't have. So I'm going to cross that out. It doesn't mean anything. Number 3, though, that's when my second ketchup finished. And number 4 is when my third ketchup finished. And number 5, I just finally mashed stop. So I'm going to cross number 5 out. But I want us to look at those numbers. Now, it says that my first ketchup finished in 19.877 seconds. This is what that means. And then for number 3, it says 6.306. That does not mean that my second ketchup finished in 6.306 seconds, because that's less time than this one. What you'll have to do is you will have to add this to that first time. So I'm going to show you how I wrote this on my data table. And this is something that you should have already written out: Heinz, Hunt's, and Clover Valley. Alright, so I know, and I have the luxury of going back and watching the video to make sure that this was the case. If you have been working in the lab, you know that when you're dealing with just seconds of a difference in time, it can be a little bit harder if you don't have instant replay. Okay, so Heinz finished in 19.877 seconds. I know that 6.306 seconds later, Hunt's finished, and then 44.363 seconds after that, Clover Valley finished. So I have to do a little bit of math. And I have actually already calculated this, but if you haven't calculated it, grab your phone, because I'm gonna show you how to do it this time, but for the next 4 trials, you're gonna have to do your own calculations. So I've got 19.877 plus 6306 is going to be 26.183. I'm going to cross that out. And then I'm going to add 44.363 to that, which is going to be 70.546 seconds. Now, if you did this in the actual lab and you're using your phone as a timer, sometimes they will put things in minutes and then seconds. Make sure you convert everything to seconds, because when you get your averages, that's really going to screw stuff up if you don't have it in seconds. Like if you had 1 minute and 32 seconds, you need to say, okay, 1 minute has 60 seconds in it. I'm add 32 seconds to that. 60 plus 32 is 92, blah, 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 blah. So make sure you convert everything into seconds. Alright, we're starting trial 2. Ready, set, go. Oh, Hunt's is coming from behind. Alright, again, I know that you probably could not see what it said on that screen, so I'm going to write it on this post-it note and show it to you. This first one is when the Heinz finished, and then 3.895 seconds later, you had the Hunt's finish, and then 6.816 seconds after that, you had the Clover Valley finish. And number 4, I'm gonna scratch out because that's not a time. That's just when I clicked finish, I guess. So I'm not going to show you my calculations on this because I have faith that y'all can do this part by yourself. Alright, this is starting trial 3, and Clover Valley's getting a little head start, but we're just gonna run with it. Okay, ready, set, go. Here is the data for your 3rd trial. Again, ignore number 4 that you're seeing. That's just when I stopped the clock. Be careful on this one because you did not have them finish as they have on the first 2 trials. So I'm not going to tell you which one finished what place. Go back and watch what you just saw again if you need to. Alright, this is our 4th trial. Ready, set, go. That was a close one, but here are your times. Here are your times for your 5th and final trial. Okay, so after you finish this, you should have all of this filled out. And I'm not going to fill mine out because I don't want to tell you the answers. But when you fill all this out, you're going to get an average for each brand. Okay, so you'll have a bunch of numbers listed right here. You're going to add up all 5 of those numbers, divide by 5, and then you're going to get an average. Same thing for Hunt, same thing for Clover Valley. And I trust that y'all can do that math yourself. Once you've got your averages for your data, you can go ahead and answer questions 1 through 5. I'm not going to go into depth about the independent and dependent variables. I've said that multiple times in the lectures that I've given, the video lectures. So if you're confused on what these are, go back and look at that. Same thing for controls. This is like a constant is what I'm looking for here. What are some things that were the same between your 3 groups? And your 3 groups were your Heinz, your Hunts, and your Food Club. What are some conditions that you maybe didn't think about you were making sure that were the same, but were kept the same? Number 4 is just a thinking question. Number 5, though, is there a correlation between cost and movement? You're going to need some information about that. A correlation just means a relationship between the two. So what I want you to do here is tell me, okay, does it look like that the most expensive were the thickest, or the more expensive it was, is it the thinnest? Like, what does your data say? And you're gonna have to look at your data to get this information. But I'm gonna show you the costs. All right, so Clover Valley and Heinz came from Dollar General, and you can see their cost right there. Had one. Clover Valley was the cheapest by far, by $1, and then Heinz was $2.45, which is pretty dang expensive for some ketchup. And then they didn't have Hunt's, so I had to go to Sam's Market. Bought me some supper right there, but right here you can see the Hunt's ketchup is was $1.99. So not quite as expensive as the Heinz was. But we also have to look at something else, and you can write this down on your paper if you want to. Here are my costs, but all of the bottles of ketchup were not the same size. And I don't know if you know this about buying groceries. Usually the more you buy, like if you buy in bulk, the cheaper deal you're going to get. I didn't buy any super big bottles this time. But like if I bought a 60-ounce bottle of ketchup, I would get a better deal. But we need to figure out how much these ketchups cost per ounce. So I need to do a little bit of math. I'm going to say 2.45 divided by 20, because it was a 20 ounce. That's going to put it at 12 cents an ounce. I'm sorry, there's a fly after me. So 20 cents per ounce. Nope, that's not what I said. I'm sorry. This fly has got me all kind of messed up. It was 12 cents. I'm going to put 12.25 cents per ounce. Alright, so Hunt's was $1.99 for a 20 ounce. So it was it was 9 cents an ounce. So almost 10 cents an ounce. Cheaper than the Hunt's for sure. And then Clover Valley, which we're suspecting to be the cheapest, it costs $1 for 24 ounces. So that's gonna put at like 4 cents an ounce. So just so you know, Clover Valley was the cheapest. Hunt's and Heinz were really close in price, but Heinz was a little bit more expensive per ounce. It's 12 cents per ounce, where Hunt's was about almost 10 cents per ounce of ketchup. So hopefully that will let you answer that question. And it's okay if you see that there wasn't a correlation, but I need you to tell me that based on your data. If you actually did this lab, go on your data, not on my data. Okay? And then the only other thing you have 2 more things to complete on your lab paper. It says create a bar graph of your average data. Do not put me a line graph right here, because you will lose all your points for this. I need a bar graph. Go back if you have questions about the graph and look at the video that I did about graphing. Did y'all see that fly? You saw the fly. It's after me. But make sure that you're doing everything that you need on this graph. Like, I'm going to be looking for a title. I'm going to be looking for your spacing. I'm going to be looking to make sure that all of your axes are labeled and that your number line makes sense. So make sure you dot all of your I's and cross all of your T's for this graph, because I'm going to be looking at it. And then your conclusion. We've talked about conclusion in notes. Make sure that you write me a conclusion there. And then once you get finished with that, you can turn in your lab.